So how to manifest a quantum leap in life? That's what we're looking at today. It's a very interesting concept. The quantum leap is an interesting concept. This is a concept straight out of science. In fact, specifically quantum physics. And quantum physics has some very interesting concepts in it. And one of them is the concept of the quantum leap, which I will really go deeply into explaining in subsequent episodes of this, subsequent sessions. But when I heard the first time I came across the quantum leap, I was listening to a gentleman called Mark Yarnell. Now, Mark Yarnell is a very accomplished network marketer. He's a pastor, he's a teacher, he's an entrepreneur, $1 million earner. Amazing man. He's actually from the same generation with our leaders in GPG. That's Paula Pritchard and Karen. And so he's in that group, Teresa Gregory. They're in the same group. They are $1 million earners in our industry. And Mark Yarnell did a presentation some years back. I think this was the early 2000s or the late 90s, somewhere there, 98, 99, somewhere there. And he was doing a presentation to a group of business people in Texas, and he began to speak about the quantum leap. I was absolutely blown away. I mean, when I listened to Mark Yarnell, I was like, oh my God, OMG, as our millennials would say. I was so stunned by the presentation. It really opened doors in my head I cannot even begin to explain. It hit me square between the eyes and it made me awaken. I mean, I can honestly say without exaggeration that when I learned about the quantum leap, like Paul in the Bible, scales dropped off my eyes. I began to see what I hadn't seen before. I know that I had it. You know, when you know that there is something consequential missing, but you can't quite put your finger on it, and then someone comes and then boom, it hits you like a ton of bricks. I mean, I could almost dare say it's another epiphany, but maybe that'll be too many epiphanies. So let's just say the first real unlocking came because when Dr. Mark Yarnell spoke about the quantum leap, and then Dr. Nelly and our group got us into the NLP course with Francois. And then Dr. Francis Miles also came and began to speak about the courts of heaven, about the Joseph of Arimathea principle and the order of Melchizedek. I mean, all this stuff it was like, whammy upon whammy, slam dunk upon slam dunk. I mean, this was some major stuff. I could almost say that it was a hat trick. There's major lessons, and all of them relating to this concept about a quantum leap. It really hit me hard. And so it began to open my mind. In fact, it opened my mind so wide into seeing what I could not see before. I mean, at the risk of sounding ridiculous, I could almost be like John Newton, the famous slave trader who sang and composed the song Amazing Grace. I was blind, but now I see. It's true. I had an epiphany. I had an opening of my mind. I had an insight that helped me realize that this concept is real and that truly we live in an abundant universe. We live in an era and a time when nothing is impossible for those who believe. And it's not some religious quirk. It's true. Nothing is impossible for those who live, for those who call on God, for those who believe. And the irony about all this is that it's a universal principle. Whether you call on Jesus or you're not, these issues to do with performance in this realm, these things are universal. They're principally true. That's why the law of gravity works, whether you're a believer or you're not a believer, whether you have faith or you have no faith. If you walk off the edge of a building, you are going to fall to the ground. That is the law of gravity. All these concepts are also true, whether you believe them or you don't, whether you call on Jesus or you don't, whether you operate in faith or whatever, you don't operate in faith, these principles remain true and they will affect you. So you can wake up and say, I don't believe in this motivation BS. It doesn't matter. Believe or you don't believe, the laws will work. And they will work both positively and negatively. And that's why it's important to become a person that understands principles, because principles are the underlying factors in every aspect of life. There are principles as the underlying factors beneath what you see, beneath the veneer of the present. These factors are underground and they operate. And so whether you want to run with them or not, that's your business. We know these things work. That's why in our team here, we use them. And so to get our story started off very well, I'm going to share with you one simple story today, just one simple story, nothing extra, just this one story alone. And this is the story of a bird stuck in the room. And I find this one of the most profound stories I've ever come across in illustrating a quantum jump, okay? Or a quantum leap. We're going to talk about a bird stuck in the room. So now what I want to do, let me close this slide for now, and I'm going to go straight into that because that was a very interesting concept. You see, like I've told you, the quantum leap, you know, is totally dependent on the wiring in our minds, okay? The unfortunate part for many people, especially here in Africa, is that the wiring is messed up. The situation is also worsened by the programming that was inadvertently coded during our childhood, which are also known as our formative years. So I want to illustrate the concept of how challenging beliefs can hamper progress. And the best example is this bird. Now, on one of my holiday trips abroad some years back, we visited a very beautiful resort set on a cliff edge with a glass dome that covered the entire section where we were sitting. Now, to the sides were very large arches that signified the entrances of this structure, so people could come in through the sides and stuff. Now, anyway, as we sat there getting ready for our lunch, because it was like a restaurant set over a beautiful dome where you could see this entire scenario, sprawling beauty. Okay, now as we're sitting in there, this bird, it flies in there, and then it must have realized that there are too many people in the dome, and it was like, where? I think I'm in the wrong place. And so opted to fly out of there. Now, unfortunately, this bird kept flying skyward instead of heading back where it came from, through the arches on the sides. And what was fascinating is that the bird kept repeatedly flying skyward and into the glass dome. I mean, it would fall to the ground and then get back up, fly, knock itself, come back down, fly, and it did this continuously. Now, as you can imagine, many got concerned and went to try and help the bird by, you know, so like taking hold of it and then going to the arches to release it. But the bird kept trying to fly away. As I could imagine, it feared those who were trying to help it. Now, every time someone tried to get to it, it would flutter its wings and fly away, only to hit into the glass dome and fall back to the ground. As can be imagined, the bird tried repeatedly until it became completely exhausted. So it literally just slumped on the ground. It could no longer do anything. It was like, you know, and that's, of course, the time when they now got this bird and took it out and released it out there. And of course, after it caught its breath, it flew away. Now, you know, that bird really gave me some lessons. And when I look at what I know about the quantum leap and I look back to that trip, it really kind of like just locked in, okay? Because it first taught about limiting beliefs and how they can hamper progress for many. And if you recall, I've been speaking, not just myself and Sylvia, Dr. Nelly, a number of people on this platform, we've been speaking about the alignment of the mind, which is thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and habits, words and deeds, and how for many here in Zambia, in Africa as well, these three are seriously out of alignment and so do not allow for optimal performance as far as results delivery is concerned. This is a big limiting belief, and as can be seen, that bird was not achieving any sensible results to speak of. Why? Because, you know, it's expended so much energy. You know, it was expending so much energy and effort trying to fly skyward with absolutely horrendously useless results. Okay, it couldn't get out of there. So does this remind you of so many people you know personally? Or could this be maybe your own story? All right. So there's 3 lessons, okay? And I'll be real quick with them. And the first one is, do not always rely on experience, but treat each situation uniquely. Lesson 1, all right? Do not always rely on experience, but treat each situation uniquely. So one of the most profound truths about this bird is that it had a mental barrier that could not acknowledge the dawn. In other words, it was blind. The glass was invisible. As far as the bird's concerned, we could see it, but the bird could not. It was there that we knew that the barrier was blocking this bird, but cognitively, the bird couldn't see it. And that's just a scary thought. The bird could not see the barrier. And how many persons do you know that keep wallowing in situations where you can even see the way out? And that is to simply stop or walk away, yet they keep going back to try one more time, hoping that perhaps this time around the much sought result will occur, yet continuing in exactly the same way, using the same methods and procedures. Do you remember the saying that says the definition of insanity? Even though that bird had tried going skyward to leave and failed, it kept trying again and again. And it kept getting the same result. Many times it pays to step back and abandon experience, because the bird looked and it said, I can see the sky, I can see the sun, I can see the clouds, therefore that must be my way. But every time it went, it couldn't go through. So obviously there was something blocking it. And so some people have, in life have situations where they see that every time they try, it's not working, but they keep saying, no, this must be the way. And the line between, there's a saying that goes, if you keep doing the right thing repeatedly, you will succeed. That's true. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result. Do you see where I'm going? These two are so thin. The line is so thin. For many people, they really miss it right there. And my concern and hope is that even as you listen to this presentation this morning, you will have the fortitude and wisdom to recognize when a barrier you cannot see continues to hamper your progress. Because in the laws of performance, the first law is work that's monitored improves. The second law is work that is monitored and reported improves greatly. And then the third law is work that is monitored, reported, and reviewed improves substantially. I like that. So do you see the method? Do, monitor, review. That means if you're doing something and you're not getting the result you want to kind of sit down and review and say, okay, guys, so where did we miss it? You'll be amazed that when you just go into such an exercise, the things that start coming out, you're like, whoa, so let's go back and improve on that. Let's tweak this, let's tweak that. So the bird should have said, I have been trying to fly through here and I'm obviously not making progress. Let me look around the room and see if there's another way. Okay, which brings us to lesson number 2. There is always a way out. I like what Aunt Sylvia said when she started. She said, embrace the challenges that come with a season of change. They are not problems. Problems is a very negative terminology. I don't like to use the word. I like the word challenges because problems just has the wrong vibe with it. It's I guess it could be semantics in one way, but when you think of a problem, it tends to draw and bring a negative picture. But when you think of a challenge, it draws and brings a positive picture. Challenges are overcome. Problems are overwhelming. Overcome, overwhelm. See the difference? So I prefer challenge because then I can overcome that challenge. So for those of us that watched this bird, we always knew that there was a way out. I mean, we could see it. All it needed to do was stop trying what it thought should work and instead take another look at the environment. Just because something has worked in the past does not necessarily mean it would work now. Yet it is true that the bird could see the sky, but the fact was that even though it tried, there was an invisible barrier. And this is true in every situation, and most of us aren't in any unique situation either. Just because There seems to be no way doesn't mean there isn't one. If we choose to step back and take a look at the environment once again, you realize that we can come out. All right? And you know, have you ever heard of poverty in the midst of abundance? Mm-hmm. There is a law called the law of abundance, but that's why they get so scared. When they get an opportunity, they just want to use only that one because they believe if I back up, I'll lose it. Someone else will take that. And that is so untrue. The bird kept saying, I must go out through this window. I must go out. No. You've tried 10 times, it doesn't work. I think it's time you stopped and asked yourself, okay, what am I doing? And the moment you do that and you look,
I think Rev has disappeared.
Yeah, so you can say something.
I was just typing in the chat box. I was just typing in the chat box how challenges keeps me going, because each time I've got a challenge, it drives me to find ways of coming out of that challenge. If it was a problem, I would just say, oh, problems will always be there, and I don't do anything about it. Maybe I start asking other people to take in charge of that problem. But a challenge actually takes you to another level of thought, where you say, now, Dr. Nelly, I've got this challenge. How can we go about it? And, from that, we start to get, the answers that help us. And, in most circumstances, when a challenge is big, even the rewards when you overcome it are so huge. Take, for example, of COVID. It's been a huge challenge, but see what has come out. We've been able to connect for over a year now on this platform. And what has it brought? It has brought, for me personally, a lot of positives, a lot. I can't even start to imagine. I've become so, wiser. I've become, approachable. I've become, I've been nurturing, relationships, friendships. I have dropped those friendships that, don't count. In fact, I've even stopped sharing, some invitations to the people that I used to think I depended on. Have stopped because there has been, people have stuck in that situation of a long time ago. So people are stuck and they don't want to see that people have moved on and they're doing great things. They are stuck in their thinking like the bird. They want to come and wake up maybe 2 years from now to say, I actually almost died during the 3 years of COVID. But look at what we've been able to do because of this same challenge. So there is enough for everyone. And when we can't make it today, we shouldn't think that this is the end of the world. We should always move on and find other ways of doing things. This morning I've got a class, and you know what? I've got a class of 2 people. And it's okay. I'm going to do it. So those ones that keep on waiting and waiting and waiting, it's a problem. So tomorrow, there will be no space. Even if you get an invitation to go to the stadium to see the swearing-in ceremony of the 7th president, you can't, it will be in a place where probably you won't even be able to see. So I'm going to switch on my TV while I'm facilitating a class and just picture and concentrate on.
Be very honest that most people do not have that. And so they fear immensely. And because they fear immensely, they end up finding themselves blocked and unable to progress in any way. So the big question that you ought to be asking yourself, and not just yourself, but everybody around you, is how best do you overcome this situation that you're in? How best do you build yourself beyond this state, like the bird, where you do not see the barriers. And I want to close with this so that I allow for comments. I want to close with this. I have learned personally that there is a component in our mind called the reticular articulation system. This is an analytical barrier that sits to sift out the conscious mind input from the subconscious mind programming. The subconscious mind is where your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, and your behavior sit. These are a function of years of mental programming. And once you've had years of that mental programming, these things are set. And the only way to break them is by reprogramming them. Most of us are ruled deeply by these. And that's why we find ourselves failing all the time to be able to make that critical move that takes us out of the situation like this bird. So in our subsequent episodes, we're going to go deeply into looking at exactly how we break these limiting beliefs. And they're very strong, by the way. Limiting beliefs are so strong that people can literally die. People can literally have heart attacks. People can literally shut down just based on a belief, nothing to do with the reality. People can believe totally that something has gone wrong and they can give up. And that's how powerful our mind is. And that's why there's a saying that it's mind over matter or mind over body. The mind is far more powerful. And so when you open your mind up to the possibilities of what exists for you, there is absolutely nothing that can stop you from achieving what looks like an impossibility. So at this point, let me now come back here and just check to see if our other leader is on the call. Oh, yes, they are. Okay, so I'll ask just before Auntie Sylvia comes at the back to plug her event for tomorrow. If Doc, you're available and if you're able to comment, please feel free to do so. If not, then I will throw it back to Auntie Sylvia. So Doc Nelly, over to you.
Revota, nothing much to say because I think what you've shared is so profound, especially the example you've given. I think if we forget everything you've talked about, we will never forget the bird example. I've always wondered whenever I've listened to that illustration, you know, it's very easy for somebody to distance themselves from it because you are watching the bird. But most of us are like that. We are really like that. You see that you sleep the same hours, you wake up, you know, the same way, you don't improve yourself. You are literally doing the same things, you know. This year, since January, you haven't changed anything. And then you are crying why in your bank account, nothing is happening. You haven't started any new business. You are not challenging yourself to new opportunities. Literally, you are behaving like that bird. And so it's easy for us to think like, oh, wow, the bird is at a distance. But most of the times we actually behave that way. And with this, you know, a session today, it's basically a challenge. Do some introspection. Look at yourself. What is it that you've been doing daily that is not adding value to yourself? Some of you, it is just where you get angry, you know, over things you can't control. You fail to forgive. You are busy, you know, chasing after your husband's phone. And you know, the last time you did that, it hurt you. You were angry, you were upset. It took 6 months for you to heal, maybe a year for you, but you've still repeated. You are still checking his phone to get angry again. You know, so it's these things that we keep doing that bring the same results. Somehow you think the results will change. No, they won't. So really, it's such a lesson. And I think I would love to challenge every person on the call. Do some checking within yourself. What is it that you've been doing often? And it's something that is not yielding, you know, results, that you're supposed to retreat and, you know, find a new strategy of doing that thing. Thank you so much, Rev. It was so powerful.
Thank you so much, Doc. Auntie Sylvia, you could come through just to do the wrap up for the morning, as always. And then, of course, you can also plug the event you say you have.
I think we just wrap up because at one time you disappeared and I continued to speak. I think you changed devices. So I've really talked today more than I should, because we've got a lot of insights, learning from that bird who didn't see the other way of looking at things. It's just like the way when we are stuck, we're still clinging onto the door which has got burglar bars, leaving all these other doors that are wide open for us to seek the opportunities. So I just want to encourage everyone to introspect, to encourage everyone to look at the other ways of doing things, to look for help. Don't before you actually die of something that is happening. Let's look for help and get it. And the help is just 5 contacts away. If you need any help, they're just 5 contacts away. And most times they're just 2 contacts away, but because we don't try, we don't look, we don't want to, to ride on other people's shoulders. So if you've got a challenge that there are people with that expertise that you're looking for, contact them and let's get moving. So over to you, and good night, or is it good morning? Good morning, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so remember tomorrow is a holiday, so we are back Wednesday because we're all, kind of getting geared to watch that inauguration. So Wednesday we're back, and Anne should be on, depending, doing the usual thing that goes on Wednesday. I don't see Anne on the call this morning, so I don't know if she's around or not, but if she's not on, then Auntie Sylvia, you jump in on her behalf on Wednesday. But either way, we are always geared and set for Wednesday, and so we look forward to seeing you then. So from ourselves, thank you so much. May God richly bless you, and see you on Wednesday. Take care. Make the day count.